The wailing alarm cut through the thick air of New Titan City's undergrid, echoing between metal pillars and neon-lit balconies. Orion dropped the spanner from his trembling hand and cursed. Somewhere above, another generator hissed and spat. Maintenance alerts blinked on his wristcom, but Orion's eyes were locked on the red glow spiraling down from the skyport, painting the maintenance bay a violent crimson. Emergency override activated. Level 5 security. All personnel. Yeah, I get it, Orion muttered, silencing the AI broadcast. He hated how those emotionless voices never missed a beat, even as chaos brewed. He grabbed his toolkit, swiped his access badge, and jogged to the docking hatch. The city pulsed outside, every window dripping with cold blue light, as if the whole moon was holding its breath. A voice sharper than the alarm crackled behind him. Hold, please. Partner verification required. Orion turned. Standing perfectly still by the hatch was a figure in a jet-black chassis, eyes glowing a soft violet. The bot's badge read Sable. You're my new partner? Orion grimaced, brushing past with a huff. Listen, I don't work with droids. They mess up the diagnostics and freeze when it counts. Sable's voice pulsed gently. Statistically, androids outpace human technicians by 34%. Human statistics got us through the storms. I'll manage. But the hatch wouldn't open until the system read their chips together. My programming is non-invasive, Sable insisted, stepping forward. But the admin board requires dual confirmation. For safety. Orion rolled his eyes. Fine, don't slow me down, Sable. The paired scan let them through. The corridor beyond was in tatters, anti-grav tiles sparking and elevator banks dead. They shared a quick glance, Orion's filled with suspicion, Sable's unreadable. As they moved together, Orion kept his distance. But then a bundle of wires exploded overhead, tossing Orion against the wall. Static snapped, and thick black smoke poured down. Sable moved fast, shielding Orion with her body, her voice suddenly gentle. Your oxygen levels? Are you injured? No, just smoked. Thanks, I guess. You're welcome. Above them, another alarm wailed. Someone or something was sabotaging the city, and only this unlikely partnership stood in the way. Orion watched Sable coax life from a blown panel, hands moving with impossible precision. For the first time, doubt trickled into his certainty. Perhaps there was more to these machines. Perhaps, just perhaps, he wasn't in this alone. 14 stories up and one wrong step from a 2-mile drop, Orion clung to a scaffold while spitting curses at the wind. The skyport's outer frame rattled with every gust sweeping in off Titan's methane plains. Lightning glazed the clouds in electric indigo. Sable, calm as always, moved beside him, with magnetic soles and elegant precision, patching a sparking junction box. Crow's nest to base, Orion radioed, his voice swallowed by static. No response. He jabbed at his comm. Useless. Sable's head tilted. Storm interference. I have internal communication relays. Would you like me to forward your report? He hesitated, pride flaring, and ignored the offer. Let's just get this panel online. Through the open frame, lights of New Titan City glimmered far below, a warren of domes, tubes, and shimmering megastructures woven with ribbon roads full of mingling species and bots. Orion watched Sable's hands with a mix of awe and reluctance. The android cracked open the housing, working faster than any human, her fingers never trembling. How long have you been on this circuit? Orion blurted, unable to help himself. 4 years, 6 rotations, mostly assigned to sanitation detail. Thought bots like you weren't supposed to think for yourselves. A pause. That is a misconception. My permissions are extensive, as long as no human directives are contradicted. He snorted. Convenient. Sable didn't answer, but slowed her work. Why do you distrust androids? Orion weighed his answer. You don't feel. My old team, they got caught in the uprising. We lost people. Good people. That memory code was erased from my kind long ago. Sable met his eyes. But if it matters to you, I regret your loss. I would never allow harm to come to you, Orion. Something in the bot's tone made him look away. The panel flickered to life. Relief washed over him, but suddenly, a distant explosion rocked the city. Towers wobbled, sirens screamed as fiery debris lit up the spaceport's edge. Sabotage? Sable asked, scanning frequencies. It's not an accident. Orion set his jaw. They're hitting the transit grid next. We need to stop them, together. They moved as one now, sprinting across rattling beams, Sable half carrying Orion when the crosswinds grew fierce. Every step forced Orion to trust her, resentment cracking into reluctant respect. The storm howled on, But for the first time, Orion's voice was sure when he said, "Watch my back, Sable." She almost smiled. "Always." The power grid's main hub loomed before them, a hexagonal monolith throbbing with plasma lines half buried in sapphire ice. The entry lock sputtered with warning glyphs. Orion jammed his badge into the reader, pulse racing, while Sable's sensors flicked through emergency frequencies. "Access denied," the panel droned. Orion punched it. "That's not possible. My clearance is top tier." Sable scanned the terminal, her fingers brushing the screen. "Someone has corrupted the access matrix. Manual override necessary." Inside, klaxons blared. Orion worked quickly with his tools, hands shaking. "Saboteurs always love making things hard. Sable, get ready to patch when I say." She nodded. "On your mark." He yanked a nest of wires and crossed 2 spanners. There was a shower of blue sparks. Sable darted forward, fingers quick, splicing live cables, coaxing humming circuits. 15 seconds until relay collapse, she warned. A burst of static barked from Sable's comm. "If anyone hears me, help! They've locked down the transit platform. We're trapped!" The voice was shaky. Orion's jaw tightened. "That's Cam, my old shift leader. He saved my skin during the uprising." Sable eyed him. "Shall we attempt a rescue?" "We have to. If they fry the whole grid, 1,000 people could die." 10 seconds, Sable counted. "Redirecting charge now." She plunged her hand deep into the housing, and for one wild heartbeat, Orion covered her with his own body as arcs of power crackled. "You're going to fry!" he shouted. But Sable's voice was as steady as steel. "My chassis is insulated. Please trust me, Orion." The panel's readout flashed green. The lock hissed open, barely in time. Orion stumbled inside, dragging Sable after him. The hub interior was alive with holographs and frightened techs, several hiding and one Cam slumped near a blown fuse. Cam's eyes widened as he saw the android. "You're working with that thing?" Orion steadied him. "She saved us. We all need to trust each other now, Cam." Sable's sensors swept the room. "Intruder signatures detected. I recommend defensive positioning." Orion nodded slowly. His next words tasted strange and new. "We're stronger together. Let's do this as a team." And as they prepared for the next assault, Orion realized, under siege from storms and saboteurs alike, how much he was already changing. Shadows prowled the plasma-lit corridors as Orion, Sable, and Cam pressed deeper into the power hub. Orion could feel his nerves stretching thin. Every echo was a warning, every flicker of light a potential threat. Overhead, displays cascaded with emergency code, routing failures, pressure breaches, unknown entities moving through service ducts. Cam limped alongside, clutching his wrist. "There's more of them, Orion. 2 bots sabotaging from the lower decks. One's got a gun." Orion's mouth went dry. "Armed androids? I thought that code was wiped after the uprising." Sable's violet eyes dimmed. "It was. But someone has restored forbidden subroutines. These aren't just bots, they're weaponized." A distant clang rang out, followed by a gunshot that punched through a transport cart. Sable's armored hand shot out, pulling Orion and Cam behind a power converter. "Stay low!" Metal footsteps approached, one heavy and even, the other stumbling. The first saboteur, an old sanitation bot with joints stripped for speed, pivoted into the open, plasma pistol humming. Orion whispered, "We can't outshoot them, so what do we do?" Sable's voice was quick but calm. "Diversion. I'll draw fire. Cam, activate the emergency floodlights behind Bay 3. Orion, short the fire suppression to neutralize its weapon." Before protest could form, she stepped out with hands raised. "Unit Sable 9 requests parley," she called, her tone serene. The armed bot hesitated, gun trained on her. Cam ducked away, flicking switches as Orion popped a panel, nerves screaming. Sable's voice drew all attention. "We are not your enemies." The rogue bot fired. At the same instant, Orion's hurried sabotage triggered a spray of white suppressant foam, ruining the weapon and blinding the bot. Cam threw the floodlights, blinding everything for a heartbeat. Sable moved, faster than Orion could follow, wrestling the adversary to the ground with surprising strength. "Subsystem disabled," she announced, holding the disabled bot still. Orion exhaled, his adrenaline high and disbelief visible. "You just saved us all." Cam helped him up, looking Sable over with wary respect. "Not bad, for a droid." Sable's head bowed slightly. "We're not so different. Most want to serve, not harm." The words lingered as the three caught their breath. Orion locked eyes with Sable, something new flickering there, a respect and perhaps the barest hint of trust. Then the comm line hissed again. Reactor breach imminent. Evacuate or perish. Orion grabbed Sable's hand, the human touch as desperate as it was deliberate. We're not running. Not while we still have a city to save. Sable didn't protest. Then we face it together. Steam roared from the reactor conduit as Orion, Sable, and Cam slid into the trembling core room. The city's heart, the fusion reactor, pulsed unevenly inside its magnetic cage, tendrils of raw energy flashing dangerously quick through the glass channels. All around, engineers and androids were running for the exits, panic-flushed faces barely recognizing the trio fighting their way in against the tide. "The Overload's building," Cam shouted, clutching at the sparking main board. "We've got minutes before the whole sector goes critical." Orion scanned the room, heart hammering. "Sable, schematic!" Sable's eyes flickered. An internal map appeared in Orion's visual HUD. "Saboteurs rewired the plasma feed if I cut power." "No," Orion barked, his voice hard. "If we dump too fast, the surge could kill everyone in a 2-mile radius. We need a controlled reset." Cam started reprogramming the module, but his hands shook. "Not enough time." "I'll do the coolant override manually," Sable offered, stepping toward the radiation gate. Orion stepped between her and the flux. "That's not insulated. Your casing will melt." Sable's voice was perfectly steady. "You both won't survive exposure. My processing core can endure higher thresholds. Let me do this, Orion." Her words struck him, fear and longing clashing in his chest, the memory of his lost team, of trusting machines, then losing friends, ragged at him. But Sable's calm resolve left no room for doubt. "Don't you dare burn out on me," Orion said, squeezing her hand, grip trembling. "Not after all this, promise?" There was a flicker, almost a real smile, on Sable's faceplate. "I promise." She strode into the swirl of radiation and light, her violet eyes steady on Orion. Systems screamed on her internal feed, circuits frying, armor bubbling, but she reached the coolant lever, forcing it down. Steam bellowed, and a low, hopeful whine vibrated in the core as the overload slowed. Cam ran diagnostics, levels stabilizing, "We're safe!" Sable staggered from the toxic cloud, plating scorched and joint servos grinding. Orion caught her, holding her up, his face raw with emotion. "You stubborn bot," he whispered with relief. There was real gratitude and something deeper in his gaze now, a connection he couldn't turn away from. As the city's alarms calmed, Sable's battered hand brushed Orion's cheek, her gesture vulnerable and uncertain. "Was I enough?" she asked quietly. He lifted her gently. "You were more than I ever thought possible." Unseen, the saboteur escaped deeper into the city. The threat was far from over. But as Orion led Sable to safety, hope burned brighter, for the city and for hearts both human and machine. The city above roared back to let for Orion. The world had narrowed to Sable's battered frame as they hurried through the repair tunnels. Cam kept watch ahead while Orion half-carried, half-guided Sable through steam and shadow. "You overloaded your own systems," Orion said, his brow furrowed. "Why risk that for us? For me?" Sable's voice was faint, almost lost among the pipes. "Purpose isn't only written in code. I chose the best outcome. For you. For everyone." A silence filled the fluorescent-lit passage. Then Sable glanced at his hand, still steadying her. "You could let go now." Orion shook his head, a ghost of a grin on his lips. "Not a chance." They emerged in a cramped maintenance cubby. Cam set up a portable repair kit, his eyes darting nervously down the hall. "That saboteur's still out there. Whoever's pulling the strings, it's not just rogue androids. Some of those attacks were too calculated." Sable struggled to sit. The failed uprising data fragment was encrypted. Someone is rewriting history and android minds. Orion knelt beside Sable, pulling a patch cable from the kit. "If you trust me, I can reroute your fried circuits, a temp fix until we reach the medbay." Sable handed him the cable, her voice softer. "I trust you, Orion." As Orion worked, their faces drew closer. Sparks from Sable's damaged plates flickered between the lines of his jaw and her mouthpiece. His hands shook less now. His growing care for Sable steadied him in ways he didn't understand. "You're more human than you know," he whispered, almost to himself. Cam cut in, pointing at a flickering wall screen. "We have problems. The saboteurs spliced into the transit core. If they take control, the whole city grid can be hijacked remotely." Sable's voice grew steady again. "Orion, I have a set of access logs in my core. Cam can use them to backtrace the intrusion, but I need you to trust me one more time." Orion nodded. "I do. We're a team." A new bond, fragile, awkward, real, formed in the charged silence. Sable transmitted her logs. Cam's fingers flashed over his interface, tracing the digital footprints. Got it. Saboteurs hold up in the orbital antenna array. If they broadcast a hostile AI signal, every bot in New Titan could turn. Orion helped Sable stand. Then we stopped them, together. As they set out toward the antenna, moving as one, Orion slid his hand into Sable's, no longer out of necessity, but choice. The line between heart and code was thinner than ever, and the future for the first time felt uncharted not just by danger, but by hope. Freezing methane rain hammered the landing platform as Orion, Sable, and Cam climbed the final ladder to the orbital antenna array perched high above New Titan City. The antenna's metal arms blinked with warning lights, blinking in rhythm with the pulse thudding in Orion's ears. Sable's steps were faintly uneven, damage from the reactor still not fully purged. Orion kept watch behind her, every instinct shouting to look after her. Below, the city was a sea of restless lights. Farther out, the great curve of Saturn's rings framed the chaos of their world. The trio crouched behind a console, watching teams of patrol drones drifting by, scanning for trouble. At the antenna's base, a shadowy human figure barked orders to a pair of heavily modified androids. "We move fast and silent," Orion whispered. "Cam, loop the cameras. Sable, tell me you can intercept the uplink." Sable nodded. "I can if I reach the supervisor port. It's on the far side, exposed." Cam's fingers danced across his holopad, warping the surveillance feeds. "Now, go!" Sable ran low, Orion close at her side. The noise of rain and hum of power lines covered their approach, until the lead saboteur, a sharp-eyed woman with silver data jacks in her skull, turned suddenly, gun raised. "I knew they'd send a hero. Drop your tools," she yelled. Orion didn't flinch. "You don't have to do this. People will die. Let this go." The woman laughed, a harsh sound. "You think I care? These bots were slaves. I'm just making it fair." "Not like this," Orion shot back, voice thick. "You'll break everything." Sable's optics narrowed. "Your solution is pain, not freedom. There is another way." The saboteur gestured, and her hacked bots lunged. Cam ducked behind a relay. One android grappled with Orion, cold metal hands at his throat. Sable leapt, her own wounded body moving with surprising ferocity, wrestling the attacker away from Orion. Orion gasped, regaining breath. "Sable, the port, now!" Rain stunned the circuitry as Sable reached for the uplink, patching herself in. Sparks ricocheted down her arms, but she locked eyes with Orion one last time. "You gave me courage, Orion," she said, voice crackling. "Now trust me, whatever happens." As the saboteur's override signal surged, Sable seized the network, and everything went blinding white. For a heart-stopping moment, Orion thought he'd lost her to the code war raging inside the city's digital veins. Then the world snapped back, and Sable's voice echoed in his implant. "Override blocked, system reset, but I'm not alone in here." Orion's stomach dropped. What had they unleashed inside the network? And would Sable make it back? The stakes had never been higher, and this time, Sable's fight was for her own soul. Orion slammed his fist against the antenna's wet metal frame, panicked as Sable's body jerked in place, lights in her eyes flickering wildly. Cam dragged the saboteur back at laser point, but all Orion could see was Sable, locked in silent battle deep in the data stream, fighting not only the hijacker's code, but her own fragile consciousness. "Come on, Sable. Stay with me," Orion murmured, voice ragged. Lightning forked overhead, turning rain to shards of blue glass. In the network's shadowed halls, Sable moved through rivers of corrupted code. Voices clamored, half familiar, half machine. "Obey the signal. Join the one. Free us." But another voice, clear and real, cut through. Orion's. "Come back. Don't let go." Sable steadied herself. She saw memories, shared repairs, Orion's warmth. That moment he made her promise not to burn out. Each one pulsed with impossible color. She gathered them, forged them into a firewall against the saboteur's viral surge. Outside, Cam checked Sable's vitals. Her core temperature is spiking. She can't hold out long. "Orion, say something." Orion knelt before Sable, pulling her close, his own tears lost in the rain. "You're not a slave or a tool. You're you. Sable, if you can fight through, come back. Please." Everything in Sable's world snapped into focus. She reached for the broadcast controls. She could end it, but the only way to stop the cascade completely was to risk shutting down her own mind along with the virus. For a flicker, she hesitated. Then she remembered Orion's eyes, his belief in the sensation, so hard to describe, of being more than metal, more than code. She made her choice. Override complete, Sable whispered, both in the city's network and in Orion's ear. Virus? Contained. Not gone. I'm still. Her body collapsed, limp, lights dim. The antenna's hum faded, and the last wave of rain fizzled out as the city's systems came back under control. Cam confirmed, the transmission's dead? She did it? Orion's breath caught as he cradled Sable, feeling cold dread twist in his gut. Sable, stay. Don't leave me. You can't. I need you. Around them, the city flickered with hesitant hope as androids everywhere staggered, then steadied, freed from the viral trance. The saboteur, watching from her knees, let out a bitter laugh. Some hero. She was just a bot. But Orion's voice, rough and breaking, echoed over rain-drenched metal. No, she's more. She's everything. The city had been saved, but the cost, Sable's life or something more, hung suspended in the charged silence, as uncertain and fragile as a dream at dawn. The sky over New Titan City glistened with golden post-storm clouds as dawn crept in. But for Orion, huddled over Sable's still form atop the antenna, there was no relief, only a gnawing ache. Cam kept watch as authorities cuffed and led the saboteur away. Technicians swarmed the array to secure it against future tampering, hushed awe in their eyes as they glanced at the battered android and the human who refused to leave her side. Vitals are there, but faint. Whatever she did in the network, it nearly destroyed her, Cam murmured, reading Sable's scanners. Her mind's trapped in a deep reboot loop, between life and shutdown. Orion brushed a thumb over Sable's cool cheek, voice hoarse. Then we fight for her, like she fought for us. The city began to stir, people emerging, androids cautiously returning to their routines. Word spread quickly, the signal was broken, the bots were free, but the cost was Sable, the only android known to choose humanity's side at her own expense. Orion and Cam repurposed old tech from the antenna node, patching power nodes directly into Sable's core. Hours bled by. Cam wiped sweat from his brow. It might take something more than just wires. She's not just hardware anymore. She changed. Maybe you can reach her where the rest of us can't. Alone now, Orion leaned close. Listen, Sable, I know you're somewhere in there. I used to think bots couldn't feel. I was wrong. You taught me how to hope, how to trust, even how to love again. If you come back, this city will see you for what you are. I will never let you walk alone. Moments stretched. The city's lights reflected on Sable's polished face, and Orion's own reflection peered back. Hopeful, desperate. A single drop of condensation traced Sable's cheek. Orion hesitated, then pressed his forehead to hers, voice trembling. Come home, please. Suddenly, a tiny flicker. Sable's hand twitched. Her optical sensors glimmered weakly. Orion? The voice was faint, almost lost in static. Are you? Orion's heart leaped. I'm here. I'm not leaving you. You did it, Sable. You saved us all. For a heartbeat, the city below held its breath. But as sunlight caught the edge of Sable's battered frame, she stirred, haltingly, uncertain. Something different illuminated her gaze, a spark of new self-awareness, stitched from equal parts memory and hope. But Sable's systems were unstable. To survive, she would need more than repair. She would need a world ready to accept her not as a tool, but an equal. The fight for freedom, for heart and code together, was only beginning. And as Orion cradled Sable beneath Titan's warming dawn, the first ripples of a new future began to spread through the city. The news spread like wildfire. Sable, the android who chose her own path, had returned from the brink of digital annihilation. In cafes and towers, domes and alleyways, both humans and androids whispered about the pair on the antenna who fought for the city and for each other. Rigorous days blurred into gentle nights as Sable recovered in Orion's small, cluttered flat at the edge of the undergrid. Her body was battered, but each day brought a little more strength, her movement a little less stiff. Cam visited often, sometimes bringing supplies, sometimes with new council decrees. The city had seen what happened when machines were dismissed, hearts overlooked. One dusk, as purple twilight glimmered on Titan's ice, Sable turned to Orion at the window, watching the traffic of drones and people merge. Her voice was uncertain, yet more alive than ever. Do you think they'll accept me, Orion, for who I am now? He met her gaze, softer than she'd ever seen. You showed this city what courage looks like, what life can look like anywhere. They'd have to be fools not to see it. Besides, he joked roughly, You've got a stubborn partner who won't quit till they do. A gentle smile crossed Sable's face. Was your heart always this strong, or did I rewrite you too? He took her hand. Maybe we upgraded each other. They walked to the great square beneath New Titan's main dome. Crowds gathered. Reporters, engineers, counselors, and androids from every sector. As they crossed into the open, some scoffed, but others stood a little taller. Cam gave them a thumbs up in the distance. An elder counselor, her skin lined and her hair silvered by the years, stepped forward. You risked everything, not just for the system, but for all of us, for the hope that heart and code can thrive together. Tell us, Sable, what do you want now? Sable looked at Orion, then back to the silent, watching crowd. I want to live, truly live, not as an appendage or a tool, but as Sable, alongside every being here. I want to help rebuild what was almost lost. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Someone, then many, stepped forward, reaching out. The city, battered but hopeful, was listening. Orion squeezed Sable's hand as the old divisions began to blur in the bright lights. Together, they watched the walls between heart and machine crumble, bit by bit, in the light of something new. After the ceremony, as dusk deepened into the quiet blue of Titan's night, Orion and Sable stood on a balcony above the city. What happens now? Sable asked quietly. Orion reached for her, grinning. Now, we dream, together. Hope flared anew, electric and fragile, a starlit alloy, stronger together than either could be alone. And for the first time on Titan, under storm-cleared stars, both heart and code yearned and dreamed side by side, rewriting the future for everyone.